Yakwe, talofa, kia orana, and a very warm welcome to the Pacific Way. The Pacific is known for its beauty and tranquility, but is also a region that is most prone to natural disasters, and these are getting worse. But Pacific nations are taking efforts to help mitigate these risks. In this episode, we look at how the Government of Samoa is working with stakeholders to prepare young children and preschoolers for natural disasters.
On 29th September 2009, Samoa was hit by a devastating tsunami which killed 187 people. The tsunami was triggered by an 8.0 magnitude earthquake that occurred 190 kilometers from Apia, and within 10 to 20 minutes, the tsunami, with reported waves of up to 11 meters, had hit the country. Alofa Ford, who lives by the coastline, recalls that frightful day.
And that day, so I never forget my life, because I've been with my mom and dad and my kids. After the earthquake, about 3 minutes, we just staying here and look at the sea come. So we didn't know what gonna happen that time the tsunami will came. We just look around and wait after the earthquake because everything in our house will fall down. So we came out and we staying there and we just wait. But that time we just heard the big noise coming on that side of the sea. So one of our family from town calling us. He say we had to leave the house and go for the high place. So that time we didn't know because it's the first time happening here in our life. We didn't know that tsunami will came.
48-year-old preschool teacher Pale Upu Matila says many people didn't know exactly what to do after the earthquake.
When earthquake started, I stand in front of my house and I see where I had to do when the earthquakes finish, and then all my family will come out outside my house and will see face to my house what happened this time, and then the Reverend's wife will call me to go to his house for the preparation and studying of the school, and then the children will not come this moment, and then I stay inside the house when I go to the pastor's house, Reverend's house, and I see the car come around the road, and the person in the back of this truck will shout and loudly, the tsunami will come. And I get the pastor's kids and we will run to where I will go to for safety.
A state of emergency was declared and the relevant government agencies jumped into gear to respond to the crisis.
The government and the international and humanitarian community response was immediate, swift and efficient. We enacted our disaster and emergency plans in place in mobilizing our agencies and our response utilities immediately to carry out our national response.
The Government of Samoa requested the Building Safety and Resilience in the Pacific BSRP project, which is implemented by the Pacific community and funded by the European Union for immediate assistance.
As you know, in 2005, SPC was given the mandate by the leaders to coordinate the disaster risk management in the region. So out of that mandate, Samoa DMO contacted SPC, and SPC provided the assistance immediately after the impact. Firstly, in the assisting in the coordination of the assistance that were flowing in to come and do assessments, identification of the deceased victims, and then later on in the rehabilitation and recovery where different SPC programs came in to support the Samoa government.
Since then, the National Disaster Management Office in Samoa, in partnership with relevant government agencies and SPC, has conducted national awareness campaigns.
I believe the people now are aware, well aware with what to do and where to go during a tsunami and other natural hazards. For the past 10 years since that fateful day, we have been conducting and implementing awareness programs at the community levels, at all levels, conducting school-based and village-based programs.
And while public awareness campaigns continue, during public consultations, there were genuine concerns identified for the safety of young children and preschoolers.
I love my kids, so I'm very scared even right now. When it's kind of, whether it's hard or what kind of, I'm very scared right now because I want to take care of my kids. It's gonna happen next. I don't want them to feel that way, that fear that time when it happened, a tsunami. So that's what I want to learn them how to know how to do it.
The NDMO's office realized something needed to be done.
Preschoolers or the children at that age continue to be inadequately represented in disaster preparedness. So we saw and used the opportunity through the PSRP project. We know that we have developed sufficient materials suitable for the primaries and the secondaries and the colleges and on the tertiary levels. And the decision to start with the preschoolers has been in the pipeline since 2009 with the tsunami. So we believe that feeding preschoolers knowledge and education on disaster risk management, preparedness and planning programs will provide them with life-saving and life-sustaining information to ensure their safety now and in the future.
To ensure children as young as 5 are able to easily comprehend the messages, an innovative early childhood education kit was specifically designed with the Snakes and Ladders game.
The toolkit, as you know, children like to play games, so Snakes and Ladders is one of the favorite games, and in the early childhood centers. So the discussion was then to develop those mats, and then the children can play Snakes and Ladders, and of course there are questions as they come to certain points, and the teacher resource kits contain the answers to those questions, so and also give more information to the teachers. So the use of the resource material and the Snakes and Ladder mats go hand in hand to ensure that the right message is passed on to the children.
The disaster awareness and preparedness classes are now incorporated into the early childhood curriculum.
We have to practice, we have to mention one day of the week we practice the children. You know all these questions inside the disaster management, and we learn how to go through when the time of the disasters occur, and we learn the children how to evacuate.
The decision to develop a specific ECE kit also has a much wider impact, as preschoolers are having a positive impact on their parents and elders.
Yes, there are evidence to that. In the 2004 tsunami, that came out strongly as well as one of the key lessons learned. If the children are taught early on the signs of such hazards, they can influence adults very easily. And in the 2004 tsunami, that came out when one of the child who had just came out on holiday with the parents were able to warn the adults on the beach when the tides were receding. She immediately alerted her parents that tsunami is coming, tsunami is coming. So that's the kind of evidence that is available, and that's why we encourage the Samoa Deer more to go that path.
And for a young mother like Alofa, her children are learning lifelong lessons.
So I'm very thankful right now for the education to teach the kids to know how to do it. Even they're kids right now, the small ones, when they grow up, they know how to do it. But right now, my feelings, my kids, I'm very love them. So I want to keep them to know why, because I'm very scared what's gonna happen to them that time. I don't want to feel that happen again.
So far, the Samoa NDMO and Ministry of Education has rolled out the program in 37 of the 140 targeted preschools across Samoa, with a thorough monitoring and evaluation of the materials and the program to ensure the early childhood education kits remain effective and continue to help the future generation better understand and prepare for natural disasters and hazards.
Welcome back. You're watching The Pacific Way. Every day across the region, hundreds of people travel the seas and rivers for work, school, or to earn an income. However, with increased traffic comes the risk of increased dangers. In a bid to reduce maritime incidents, the Pacific Safety of Navigation project is being implemented in the Pacific Islands.
The world's largest ocean surrounds the islands of the Pacific. For generations, maritime transport has been an essential part of the people of this region. However, the safety of navigating through the oceans is increasingly being recognized as a key development challenge for Pacific Island countries. Key navigation sectoral policies and measures are still lacking in many Pacific countries. In recognition of this gap, the Regional Strategy for Safety of Navigation, endorsed by the Pacific Transport Ministers in April 2017, called for improving safety of navigation. This is the story of how 3 of these island nations, Vanuatu, Kiribati, and the Solomon Islands, rose to the safety challenge with support from the Pacific community. Better safety leads to greater efficiency and more effective shipping, while contributing significantly to the sustainable development of Pacific communities. However, implementing these services across a landscape as vast and varied as the Pacific is no easy task. It requires international technical cooperation and close regional collaboration. SPC began its assistance in 2016, thanks to the generous support from the International Foundation for Aids to Navigation by working closely with the International Association of Marine Aids to Navigation and Lighthouse Authorities, or IALA, to conduct technical, legal, and economic assessment missions in 13 targeted countries, including Kiribati, Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu. The Aids to Navigation Unit, which is rooted within the Solomon Islands Maritime Authority, was confident that the island nation will be able to achieve the goals set out by SPC's Safety of Navigation project and elevate the nation's ports to international standards.
There are quite a number of improvements, and one is this island lifted Solomon Island from the, removed Solomon Island from the target list. In the Pacific, there are 13 of us that's in the ILA target list, but now they removed Solomon Island because of the recommendations that they gave us, and we close off some of them. And slowly we'll close off the rest by 2021, I hope.
Solomon Island is one of the countries which is the most ahead in terms of aids to navigation and very up to date. In 2015, Ayala conducted the first technical assessment of the country, and they come up with 39 recommendations. In 2017, 8 were closed, and up to today, 12 others have been closed.
Kiribati is another of these countries who are taking the lead in rectifying the recommendations provided by IALA. Kiribati's urgent need to meet all the IALA standards was driven by the rising number of ship damage and wrecks in the country's waters.
Yeah, before we don't have safety of navigation before, and we have some instances in Kiribati before, like shipwrecks, and mostly the shipwrecks. That's the problem with because they cannot navigate through the channels because they don't know the marks, and especially nighttime. Yeah, and because of our charts are not updated. We have plenty of reefs around Kiribati, and it's very dangerous for navigators to navigate, especially in the nighttime.
Local feedback on the safety efforts underway in Vanuatu has also been positive.
You're looking at ships coming in so frequently that you need to look at aids to navigation to assist, to make sure, to ensure that ships that come in, we do not have any, not shipwreck, but accident or something like that.
Conforming to IALA standards will have a ripple effect on these countries' economies, opening their doors for expansion and investment. The thousands of seafarers in Solomon Islands, Kiribati and Vanuatu, whose lives and communities depend on the maritime industry, are hoping that by meeting international safety standards, the prosperity of the region will continue to expand, providing a better future for all islanders.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. We leave you with this story looking at the creative arts of our Pacific region. To learn more about tonight's stories or about the Pacific Way, you can find us on the Pacific Community YouTube channel or the Pacific Way Facebook page. Until next week, ale ka kite ano.
Art is an expression of inner beauty and social values in visual and other forms. For Pacific artists, these have both been culturally inherited and developed through newly acquired skills. The newly built National Art Gallery at the museum grounds is bustling with colors and designs, much to the amazement of the delegates and visitors alike. Artists from throughout the Pacific are gathered here in Honiara to exhibit their artwork and learn from the Pacific brothers and sisters.
It's been an honor to have all the different regional artists present here in the Solomons right now. We came from different Pacific islands. We had some similarities, some different cultures, but then all in all we had like art that binds us together.
Now, all the way from Papua New Guinea, I have with me one of the top artists, not only from PNG, but from the region, Chris Kawage. Chris, you all right?
Yes, I'm okay. We have 700 languages and more than 1,000 cultures that we have in Papua New Guinea. So most of my paintings are based on our customs and our traditions. As you can see, some of my portraits there, they are representing the provinces that we have different ways of dress, ceremonial dresses and painting places based on our cultures now.
A woman. They show how the eagle snake attacked the woman and the baby. Like the woman worshipped the eagle. This eagle is a spirit god. When the eagle snake appear and want to kill the woman and the baby, then he shout for his god. Then the eagle saved the life of the mother and the baby.
Artists represent not just their self-creativity, but the larger creative potential of society. In the Pacific, they help pass down cherished artistic values from one generation to the next through different art forms.